It's already transmitting now. Thank you.
Okay. The first speaker of today is Javier Ortega, member of the UK's Lodge. From Madrid, actually lives and studies in London. Previously a Rosicrucian member, he has been studying occult and spiritual matters since 9 years of age. He studied Tantric Buddhism with a Burn master and Kabbalah with a Rabbi. He also participated in radio and YouTube channels about mystery and spirituality, and in parapsychology investigation as a medium. Please, Javier, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mattia. Well, first of all, thank you everyone to be here with Raphael and in this talk. I think this is one of the most important topics that we can talk about because practice, for me, is the only way to reach enlightenment. We are all here to learn spirituality and to stop the samsara, the wheel of reincarnations, and to become better people and to enlighten ourselves. So the practice is, as I said, one of the most important things. You cannot go up to evolve without practice. Imagine you decide to learn a language, for example, I don't know, Chinese, and you learn this language only theory, but you never talk with someone. What sense has to learn a language if you don't talk with someone? Because language is hard to communicate with others, right? So the spiritual teachings, I think, is the same thing. If you don't practice, if you don't talk with others, if you don't learn about others and you don't transmit your knowledge to others, it has no sense. If it's just for you and you see it as a theoretical thing, you cannot evolve as you should. But before talking about practical theosophy, we have to understand what is theosophy. Here, we all know what is theosophy, but sometimes we have to think in the goal of the founders of the Theosophical Society. And I think one of the goals of them was not doing something new, something like a New Age movement. That's not exactly the aim. It was like reborn the ancient knowledge and the ageless wisdom of the ancient traditions. So the most of the times we focus in theory of the ancient traditions and all that, and we don't focus too much in the practical ancient practices. And the ancient practices are amazing. I mean, if you learn some new spiritual practices, it has nothing to be compared with the ancient ones, because only in the ancient knowledge you have the wisdom, of the masters, of the Mahatmas, of the cities, of the enlightenment people of the past. So and sometimes when you say something to a person and that person tells another person and it goes from other people to other people, then the knowledge finish like nothing. You lose the original aim of the knowledge. So that's why I think that it's very important that in Theosophical Society we focus in ancient traditions and not in modern movements. And yeah, so the practical theosophy, I see it as practice the old practices. So If we talk about Vedic culture, you can practice yoga, you can practice other kind of methods, but Theosophy also tries to see the philosophy, the common philosophy in every traditions, like the pineal wisdom, the common wisdom in every tradition. So one of the methods that you can find in every culture is meditation. You can find meditation in the Chaldean tradition. You can find meditation in the Vedic traditions. You can in Buddhism, in Hinduism, everywhere in the world, even in all the the shamanic traditions, also in the Indians of America, everywhere. So meditation, it doesn't mind what kind of meditation you practice, but is probably the most important practice for a spiritual purpose. And we live in a society that is not very easy to meditate, because we live in a very frenetical world and very materialistic. So if you talk as anthropologist, it's okay, because you are theoretical, and everyone sees you as an academic and very important people. But if you're a yogi, or if you are a person who meditates, then society tries to avoid you because you practice something and you're not theoretical. That's a bit the Occidental mind. But as I said, only practice is the way to talk this language of spirituality. And also think that to open the third eye and the extrasensorial, to see the other planes and to know about the spiritual planes, the only way is to know it, not to believe in it. That's religion. You can have faith, but spirituality is to prove things, is to practice in your own life. You don't need someone to tell you something. You can practice by your own. That's the most important thing. And if you don't do it, then you can never know about it. I realized there are only two reasons why people don't practice, and it's one, laziness, because you don't want to do it, or you have fear. And fear is the first thing that you have to exterminate to be in an initiatic path. As Master Yoda says, fear is the path of dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and fear leads to suffering. And that's a very wise quote, I think. And it's true. If you have fear, you can never meditate, because when you have fear and you meditate, you start feeling, some people, when they try to do, for example, astral projections, and they have fear, then that's sometimes is a risk even for you. So fear is the first thing that you have to exterminate in the spiritual path. And second, laziness. I talked with a very good friend of mine, and he told me one day, like, Javi, how you can practice all these things, how you can, because you're always doing, you study, you are in university, you do your things, your projects, and you even have time to do this, because I can't meditate, I don't have time. And I said, well, you don't have time, are you sure? Do you sleep? And he told me, yes, of course. Okay. Do you go to the bathroom? Yes. Do you take showers? Yes. Do you cook? Sometimes. Do you eat? Yes. So I told him, okay, so instead of, you don't need to meditate in the lotus position, burning incense, doing your mudras and everything. That's not the main thing. That's not the most important thing. You meditate with your mind, so you can do other things while you're meditating. You can see the essence in in the details, in the small things of life. So I told to him, like, well, if you sleep, do you know how that, and that this my bond master told me one day that, do you know that how much time do we spend sleeping? We spend more than 35 years, almost, I don't know, something like that, of our life sleeping. And there are even ancient practices to meditate while we are sleeping. So we cannot say that we don't have time to do it, to do practice. It's a voluntary thing, but we all can do it. We spend an average more than 4 hours a day with our mobile phones, especially the young generations. If you take just 1 hour or 2 hours of that time spending with your phone in social networks and all that, meditating, then you have time to do it. You can meditate while you are cooking. You can meditate when you are showering. You can meditate when you're in the bathroom, or even when you are in transport. Well, not driving in the car, because you can have an accident. But in the underground, for example, you can meditate. So if we don't do it, it's because we don't want to do it. And yeah, and in Theosophy, we don't have rituals like other orders, or and for one thing, it's very good not having rituals, because when you have rituals, then it's true that you can, like other orders, you can increase your ego, because if you have a ritual, then you have to have a great master and the great candle and the great lodge and the great everything. And that's, in my humble opinion, what it does is only to give you more, more ego. So the personal practice is even better than practice with other people, because it's a personal path. Okay. And yeah, and to transform quotidian things of the daily life in rituals, like the things that I've mentioned, is a very, very good way to do it. It's not necessary to burn incense. You only need intention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Javier. And your talk reminded me of other lines of another Agni Yoga book. This is Brotherhood, 1937. And it talks about the teachings. And it says, the teaching has already transformed your whole life. It has brought you through many dangers. It has brought, the teaching helps you to discriminate where harm is and where advantage. I'm sorry. It does not come easily to distinguish the right pathway, but you know how to ascend a smooth rock. Yeah. So after that, the next speaker of today is Piafin Abbasova. She has been a member of the Theosophical Society in America for over 10 years. She is originally from Russia, where she was trained as a psychiatrist before moving to the US. She's been teaching yoga and theosophy for a decade and believes it is a true calling along with medicine. Thank you, Pyarvin, and have a nice talk.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yes, I'm really happy that I have a chance to speak about practical theosophy. it's always been the kind of topic that I think is very difficult for most people who first encounter Theosophy. Sometimes Theosophy was called the Jnana Yoga, right? Or like Raja Yoga. And it could be really heavily mental. It could be abstract concepts you have to grasp. But I think the founding members did not really lay out a good foundation for how it can be practically applied in a daily life. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. If you look, and I had to look back in time. If you look at our founding members, if you look at Blavatsky, if you look at Besant, if you look at Leadbeater, and it was a bigger group, of course. A lot of them were people without families. Well, Annie Besant had, but then she kind of left them. And they were just really, really focused on, okay, we have this huge amount of work. We need to focus our attention there, need to get it done. And there were rules of behavior, there were rules of lifestyle, and it worked for them, and they did get the job done. But then as it transitioned to a different stages of development, here came people who had a different lifestyle, who had families. And so they found it more difficult to incorporate Theosophy in a daily life. And I was fortunate enough to live in a Theosophical center for 4 years, serving and volunteering. And I got to see how we as Theosophists could apply Theosophy in our daily life. But then right next to us, there were two really big anthroposophical communities. And for those of you who don't know what anthroposophy is, it's a teaching that I consider always like a sister teaching to Theosophy that was developed by Rudolf Steiner, who was a Theosophist at some point. In fact, he was, I believe, the head of the ES section, but then he parted ways with TS and he started his own organization. He drew a lot of the theoretical knowledge from TS, but what he did very different was he applied it in a practical life. So he developed a Waldorf education, the way, you look at the child and the way you help the development, the child, educate the child. And he developed a certain type of agriculture, biodynamic. And then there was a method that helps to work with the mentally handicapped people. It's called Camp Village. It was right next to where Theosophical Center in New York is. And I got to go all those places and I got to see how it works and how a very heavy mental theoretical principles are applied to a daily life. And then I looked at our way of living in TS Center, and we did a lot of good things. We didn't really, because many people would come to our center and they just see, okay, this is how we live. We didn't really articulate it. That we do this because this is our way of life because of Theosophy. Say in the Theosophical Center, from the time it was established, which is over 80 years ago, we only served vegetarian food. There was never meat cooked in that kitchen. Alcohol, drugs were not allowed on the property. Whenever we did gardening, it was always organic. So we tried to do solar panels. We tried to do environmentally friendly things. To me, we did it not because we wanted to go with the flow and the trend in the daily world. We did it even before all of that happened, some 60, 50 years ago. And that was nice to do. And it was really good. But then I found myself in a situation where I moved from New York and I came down to Texas, living really close to the Mexican border. And there's no Theosophist in sight. There's no one here. And the closest TS lodge is probably 6-hour drive up into Houston. And so I found myself in a situation okay, well, here I am. I'm a mother of 2. I'm really busy at work. I go to, I have school and I don't have any community. And what I realized, even though I did my fair share of reading and meditating and studying theosophical concepts, and I know a lot of it, but here I am in the daily life. How do I apply it? And what I realized, it's very important to have a sense of community. it does help right now with the modern world, and even pandemic here did help us a lot in that sense. People start doing more things on Zoom, and I joined a wonderful Theosophical group through Zoom, and we've been working for a while together now. But that sense of community and belonging, what it does for you, if you look back in history and how we evolved as a society and as a humankind, we always need to belong to some social group. And that's why people, I think, always stay in organized religion, because belonging to something bigger than you, it provides you a sense of security. So I find it's a very practical aspect of Theosophy, right? To give new members to give people who are seeking for something like that a place where they feel that they belong. For me, that was always a big aspect. And then yeah, I had to really research on how to, like, say, be a mother and things, or even like very basic philosophical concepts when they ask, well, where did I come from, mama? And now my children 6 and 4 say, oh, mama, who was I in my past life? So like they know the concept of reincarnation, but those things I kind of had no compass. I found one book on theosophical parenting. It was just a compilation of different articles by TS authors who maybe wrote a little bit here and there, but I feel like this is a big gap, right? And then as TS evolved, the world around it changed. So whatever the foundation was put 100, 150 years ago, well, 130 years ago, some of it might not apply that much in this world, right? So, like, for instance, in the beginning, they said, okay, well, we need to be vegetarian because of ahimsa, mostly. But if you look at the world right now, compared to where they lived, right now, agriculture changed. So even if you're vegetarian, you're still contributing a lot to cruelty that agriculture is doing to destruction of the environment. So maybe like promoting more of a veganism now is a choice. And it's not only me. I look at people here who are, I don't know if you're familiar with that branch of Christianity. It's called Seventh-day Adventists. They also are a branch of Christianity who promoted vegetarianism. But recently, over the, say, last 6-8 years, they changed, and now they promote vegan, plant-based lifestyle for the same reasons. And in fact, looking at some Christian organizations down here in Texas, I see how they work with their members, and I see how they explain practical aspects of living to people who go to their churches or their community, how they explain concepts of, well, what I call ahimsa, but nonviolence and respect to the earth, and how they teach it in rural communities all over the world. And I think this is one of the things that as a TS, we might start developing. And I don't know, I would love to hear what are you all thinking about that. And I know it's a big work, but it becomes easier if it's broken down to little projects. And yeah, that was basically the essence of my ideas about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really interesting. Okay, so the next speaker is Ruben Gomez. I hope I said it right. Rubem is an independent theosophist from Angola, where the TS doesn't exist yet. And so with the tools he has at the moment, he's trying to share the theosophical knowledge with the interested people, pardon me. So welcome, Ruben, and thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ruben Gomez, Ruben Gomes. I'm from Angola. I'm 34 years old. I'm Theosophy independent, My English is not very, very good, but I'll speak for Leo about the meditation, you know. Okay, let me see. Okay. Meditation. Okay. A lot of codes say, and meditation is a practice, and the result. Meditation is an art. How is sometimes supposed to be a difficult and art. It is the glorious expansive and sublimation of the normal power of heart and mind, and can be practiced to some extent by every living soul. Krishnamurti say, meditation is the constant understanding of the way of life. Horit Mehta say, the science of meditation. The discovery of the way is possibly only the experience of meditation. Okay, guys. Ralph is my brother. Charlie is my brother. Charlie introduced me in the Theosophy group in Brazil. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we are hearing you.
Ok. Rafa, deixa-me dar uma ajuda. Pronto. Ok. But I will speak of meditation. Let me see. Okay. Okay, that's how I went into say with about the meditation. Okay. Okay. I use this translated. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm done, guys. Speak a little about this meditation.
So Ruben, sorry. So have you finished?
Yeah. I'm finished. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Rubem. And I hope to hear you again other times. So moving to the last speaker of today, Smitapragyan. We already knew her from the international convention this year. So Smitapragyan is a member of the TS since 2005, secretary of Pythagoras Youth Lodge in Utkal, Theosophical Federation, India. And she works as an application specialist in a multinational company. I really hope Smitapragyan will have some other nice Zen stories for us today. Welcome, Smitapragyan, and have a nice talk.
Thank you, Matthew. I don't have much Zen stories today, but I have stories today. Okay. Thank you and good evening, everyone. So it was a very difficult topic for me, practical theosophy. But first, we will start with what is theosophy. Theosophy, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Theosophy is the body of truths. It's the essence of all religions. It's the philosophy which renders life intelligible. Theosophy is the science which gives us answers about how life evolves. Theosophy teaches us compassion, kindness, truthfulness, honesty. It teaches us to love, to help, to serve. And when theosophy is practiced in daily life, then it's called practical theosophy. And those who live theosophy are the Theosophists. About practical theosophy, in Key to Theosophy, Madam HBB said, it's the duty, which means due to humanity, duty to our fellow men and to those who are helpless. Again, she says, this is a debt which, if left unpaid, leaves us morally bankrupt. So our duty is to help all and serve all. So I'll explain this duty with a story. A doctor received a call from the hospital staff. He was called in for the urgent surgery of a young boy who met with an unfortunate accident. He hurriedly reached to the hospital in some time, changed his dress, and directly went to the OT. While going to the OT, he saw the boy's father walking near the operation room in stress. When the father saw the doctor, he yelled at him, "Who made you a doctor? Do you have a sense of time? Where in the world you were busy to come here this late? My son's life is in danger. Don't you know that? Do you have even a sense of responsibility?" The doctor asked him to calm down and replied, "Sir, I understood the urgency. I'm sorry, I wasn't present in the hospital. After receiving the call, I came as fast as I can. Please calm down and let me do the surgery now." The father got angry and said, "What if your own son was in the operation room in the place of my own son? Would you be able to calm down? If your son gets late treatment and dies, what would you do?" The doctor smiled and replied, "Doctors can't extend life. All I can do is to operate with all my knowledge, and rest all is on God." The doctor went to the surgery room. After a few hours of surgery, the doctor came out and told the boy's father, "Your son is out of danger. The surgery is successful. If you have any queries, please ask the nurse." He didn't even wait for the father's reply and left. The father felt anger on the doctor and went right up to the nurse and asked, "What's wrong with him? Why is he full of arrogance? I wanted to ask him about my son's condition. He could have waited for a few minutes to make me understand that." The nurse replied, "He lost his son in the same car accident. He was in the cremation ground when we called him for the surgery for your son. He could have said no to this, but immediately he came to save your son's life." So this is called duty. And we shouldn't ignore it. Our duty is to serve others, no matter what. We should practice to reflect this theosophical knowledge in our actions. Our hearts should be filled with love and compassion towards our fellow men, so that without any second thought, we put our steps forward to help them. When Jesus was crucified, his heart was full of love and compassion for those who crucified him. He was so full of compassion that he said, "Oh Father, please forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." That is called compassion. But we, when anyone hurts us, even it's unintentional, we start cursing that person. When something goes wrong accordingly, something doesn't go accordingly to our wish, we start complaining. We talk about laws of karma, but do we really understand it? We say whatever happens is for good. But when we lose someone near to us, we start blaming God because we really don't understand and we don't really believe what we say and what we studied. A simple example, if we start doing something new, suppose meditation, we start practicing meditation. We try to meditate to calm our mind. We do it for 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 1 month. And when we fail to calm our mind, then what do we do? What's wrong with me? Why I can't do anything? Why I am unable to calm my mind? So many questions come into our mind, and we start questioning, and so on. And finally we quit. But remember, to make anything happen, we must trust first. Again, one story. There was a village where there was no rain for so long, and the people of the village, the villagers, they were suffering a lot. They lost the harvest, and they were very much worried. Then one learned person, you can say, or may you can say a saint, he came and he said that I'll make this happen. I'll make something, I'll do some rituals, and then it will rain. So that he called everyone in the village to one big ground to gather. And next day, before the ritual starts, everybody gathered around in the ground. They came simply. One girl, one little kid was there. She came with an umbrella. That is called faith. Theosophy gives us idea about life. It's the lamp which lights our path. We read many theosophical books, but do we really understand it? We talk about calm mind, we talk about faith, we talk about hope, but does our action reflect them? As the students of Theosophy, we must evolve every day. We have a great lot of resources to evolve and make our lives better. We talk about brotherhood, but we don't leave competing with others. We want to prove ourselves better than anyone. If we understand brotherhood, then would we try to prove ourselves better than others? If we really want to be a better person, then we shouldn't compete with others. We should compete with our own selves. It's called a healthy competition. This way, we will not grow jealous, hatred, and envy towards anyone. Example, maybe everyone knows this example. This is in an Oscar award ceremony. The Oscar winner said, I was 15 years old. I had a very important person in my life came to me and asked, who is your hero? And I said, I don't know. I need to think about that. Give me a couple of weeks. I came back few weeks later. That person asked me again, now tell me, who is your hero? I said, it's me 10 years later. After 10 years, the same person comes to me, asks, so are you a hero? And I was like, not even close, because my hero is 10 years away. I'm not the hero. I know I'm not. And that's just fine with me, because that keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing. We should make ourselves better and better every passing day. This is the theosophy we need to practice in our daily lives. If we want to change the current situation, we need to change ourselves. We need to practice and reflect the theosophical knowledge in our action. As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. As we all know, action speaks louder than words. Theosophy should reflect through our action, not through our voices. One more example. I think everybody knows about the world famous Lord Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. It started in Odisha. A few years ago in Mumbai, Rath Yatra was planned. A couple of days before the Rath Yatra was about to take place, the managers realized that they were short of some funds. They called a person who was a well-wisher of the Rath Yatra community, but he already given a considerable amount, and he approached his friend for charity and he wrote a check. On the day of the festival, as the cart moved from the street to street, the driver didn't realize how narrow they would be. Under pressure, he accidentally bumped the wheel of the cart against the silver Mercedes parked on the road. Most of the people had not taken note of their accident. Other had probably noticed but had moved on because there were no one to witness what had happened. There were no cameras on that street. 2 days later, the person who was the close associate with the community received a call from the gentleman who had given him the check. He was shocked by what he said. For the next festival, I want to sponsor the entire thing, he said. The person asked him, that seems really kind of you, but why this sudden urge? The person replied, when the yatra finished, I took the elevator down to the street from the apartment and found a huge dent on the side of my Mercedes. I was distraught, and it is not usual in this street. But then I found a note flapping between my windscreen wipers. It's written, to the owner of this beautiful car, we are so sorry to inform you that the equally beautiful cart of Sri Jagannath accidentally hit the side of your car during the festival. I waited here for an hour to see if you would come down so that I could speak to you personally, but no one came. Our temple would like to fully reimburse you to fix this dent. We are so sorry for this inconvenience. Here is my address and number. Please get in touch with us. The man exclaimed, what a honesty. Nobody would have known that they hit my car, but they decided to own up. The meaning of this to narrate this story is, as a student of Theosophy, we should reflect Theosophy through our actions, through our speech, through our thought. It should reflect in our daily life. It can only be possible through perseverance, without failing to raise again after every fall. Once Helen Keller, everybody knows her, said, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. So we should make the turn. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Smitapragyan. And yeah, always full of stories, like a sage of our times. I think we can close the recording here. I thank you very much, all of you. And it was a very interesting session. Now we can turn to the question and answers. So that
Mattia, just wanted to add that because there are a few people watching us from YouTube, so I'm going to include the Zoom link in the comments. So if the person wants to join and come here to participate in the questions and answers, please feel free to do it.
yes.